Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool, with your hosts, Cameron
and Connor.
So did you see Spirit of Law's video on the two new civs?
Yeah.
They are weird.
I don't like the
Second one?
Second one. They look far too single.
Sicily.
Yeah, they look far too like single.
Well, they're
path.
super boat focused as well.
Oh, okay.
Like they're a very, very good naval civ.
But it looks like they're Tower Rush or nothing.
Yeah, no. I feel like they'll have to basically be changed. They also he didn't go into their Castle Age or unique techs.
Yeah.
Because he won with that. But yeah, they don't have options. Like they can't really go pikemen, they can't really go archers, they can't go cavalry.
So because of their farm bonus, it means they'll always have spare wood. So
Yes.
that's good for boats.
Yeah.
And
No, their farm bonus is insane.
they can turn their workers into soldiers?
Yeah, so that's their unique tech.
Is Ragnarok?
Yes, is they turn their farmers into those guys with axes and shields.
Right. Which...
But then they can produce villagers afterwards. So it's basically, you have 100 villagers.
Yeah.
You convert all of them, then you start producing more villagers.
But they have the best team bonus ever, +5 space and transport ships.
And the transport ships also have better armor and HP or something.
Yeah.
Now, do they also get the food and gold? No, that's
the other one.
Yeah, so the other one, holy
They look amazing.
cow. I feel like they have to be nerfed.
Their villagers produce gold at the same time as food if they're working on a farm.
Do they?
Yeah, that's their unique tech.
Oh, wow.
After they convert all their food to gold, their villagers start producing gold from farms.
Oh, so you want to do that tech anyways, basically.
Yeah, it gives you 2 benefits.
Yeah, and then they get...
And their relics give them food and gold.
Yeah, which is amazing. Their unique unit, he didn't
Is
have many...
just very strong.
Yeah, they're very good with horses.
Yeah.
That knight thing,
they're
getting the upgrades early as well, eco upgrades early, and the cavalry, I know he was saying, it's not that good because just health and, 2 damage, and they still get paladins at the same rate, or do they not even get paladins?
I think they get paladins.
Yeah, still get paladins at the same rate, but just the eco upgrade is what makes them so good, is, getting those early, you don't even have to go out really and do a Pure Age with them.
I think they seem to me to be...
Well, even a Pure Age has that spike of golden food.
I think they might be the best civilization.
Yeah. And
they also get 50% off all stable upgrades.
Yeah, well...
Which is huge.
I like how they basically walked it back of, whenever knights die, you get gold back.
Yeah.
They're like, wait a minute, this is weird.
Was it when the knights died, or was it when you built them?
Whenever a knight died, you got 50% of your gold back. And I was like, this is a weird bonus, and I think there's probably abuses you could do with it.
Yeah.
And also, encouraged you not to heal your knights with monks and stuff.
Yeah, it just doesn't really fit the flow of the game.
Mm-hmm. But I'm they have the initial attack that's just a huge wham. Mm-hmm. Does Sicily get the everything takes half damage?
They take half bonus damage, yeah.
Half bonus damage. That's Sicily's?
No, that's the one with the knights.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is it so good?
I'm pretty sure that's them. But it might be Sicily.
Because the half bonus damage is also really good.
If it is the other one, then that actually makes sense because their team bonus is their boats have 10 armor versus bonus damage.
Yeah. Although that unique unit is has really high pierce armor as well.
The sergeant?
Yeah, the Sicily.
2.
Yeah, that's good though for the early rush. That's kind of unfortunate.
Good against arrows.
That game seems like a feudal age civilization, and there isn't feudal age civilizations.
Well, that was the feudal age. He was getting his unique unit in.
I know, but it's there's castle age, there's imperial age. There's very few situations where you can do a feudal rush, and it's usually considered really risky. There was a dark age rush. There's a drush for a few civs, especially for Goths for a short while. They had the drush, but after that, it's no one really wants to go feudal age rush besides them, that's their whole thing.
Yeah, they're kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if their elite is way better than their... That's how I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I designed them, I would make their elite unit far better than their normal unit.
Their elite sergeant?
Yeah, so that you could upgrade into later game instead of it being you tower rush or you lose.
Well, some things it's not much of a difference. It's a bit more health, maybe 1 or 2 more damage. But when you look at Teutonic Knight's elite compared to a normal Teutonic Knight,
Yeah.
they get insanely, like, it just jumps up.
Yeah. I think the
Same with the
Goths-
lightest.
Oh, the light. Do the lightest get stronger?
Yes, the lightest get way
Like
stronger.
they need it.
It's just the lightest deal more damage.
The Berserker does.
Yeah.
Gets way better.
Yeah, and Goths do. The
Yeah.
Housecarl gets even more invincible. I think they become faster.
Mm.
Also, no, they don't become faster. You just get more. Also, their unique tech is like one of the few ones that really works well. Because, like, you go Japan, like Samurai, Elite Samurai are alright, and then their unique tech is they get really good trebuchets and they get really good archer towers. But the Goths is, your Goths can now be produced from barracks. Your other unique tech is everything produces 50% faster in barracks. And it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like super synergy.
So, you know how it's kind of weird. Age of Empires, like, there's no good units, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
like if you play Warcraft, if you get the knight for the humans, it's better than all your other units, basically.
Yeah.
Like, there's situations where you want the others, but
Yeah.
one knight is better than 3 swordsmen.
Yes.
But in Age of Empires, it's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
Like, there's like this new tower rush thing. It's like, okay, the tower, it has more health, but it's bigger, so it can be attacked easier, and also it's way more expensive. It's like twice as expensive for like 25% more health.
Like,
And
one of the big things there, actually, which a human player that's like good would have done to Spirit there, is held off the towers and raided his base because he was purely attacking. And if you can if you force a tower rusher to defend their own base, they basically lose if they've vested purely in the tower rush. And then like both your bases are dead. Yay.
I wonder if that would matter though, because he wasn't using villagers.
Can the sergeants cut down trees?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they can just build, but I don't know.
If they could go after like one resource only, that would also make them really good. Like even just mining stone.
But you're not risking your economy at all when you're on the front lines, so it's not like you're actually going all in on the tower rush.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just a harassment force.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It's kind of neat.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like even the Teutonic Knights, they're slow, and Lytuses ruin them.
Or like a manga die or something.
Yeah, Magna Die. Even Samurai and Jaguar Warriors can be a bit of a trouble for them.
Yeah. But it's like, if you build a bunch of them and then your opponent just gets cavalry archers, you're doomed.
Yeah, but then you're like, all right, I'll go paladins, and then their cavalry archers like ping, 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 trying to shoot your paladins.
Then they can just go pikemen. Like, there's always a counter, and there's never a clear best unit.
What's another weird thing? So you know about T90, right?
Yeah.
And he has the videos Low Elo Legends.
Yes.
So he released a video which is like Where Are the Legends Now? And it's like a new series he's doing. And the one I was watching is on a player called Dark Elf. So Dark Elf's thing is whenever he produces villagers, like starting out, they like will go gather the resources, like get the bushes, gather the sheep. But then men chop trees, mine stone and gold, and women farm. And he separates them out, and he builds this nice little box. And he builds like villages, and his space looks really pretty. This guy has more ranked games than half the pro players in the world, and he's still like sub 800. So he has like over 1,000 games, and his elo score is 800. He's like playing against another guy with elo score of 800. And watching T9 like going back and forth perspective, it's like, man, I could actually like beat an 800 elo player. And like these guys have played a bunch of ranked games, probably played a lot more than me. And so like the weird skill thing in Age, like Spirit of the Law, I think said this at one point, which is around half the players can't beat moderate AI consistently of Age of Empires.
I can't.
And
like that AI is good.
I beaten 2 moderate at once.
Oh.
I've beaten hardest. I haven't beaten the extreme, but I've beaten hardest, and I've beaten hardest without tower rushing it finally. I actually beat it properly.
So this actually ties into something. So I was watching for a while YouTuber called Alexiev, I believe his name is. He's a Lithuanian YouTuber. And first of all, have you noticed that Eastern Europeans have like high-pitched accents or something?
Yes.
I don't. It's a bit weird. I don't know what what it's about. But yeah, so I was watching Lexiev, and he plays Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
And he plays a variant called Jeebus Cross.
All right.
Which is a Horn of the Abyss exclusive random map template, I believe.
Yeah.
Where it has 4 zones, hence the cross, with a road connecting all of them. So there's your starting zone, there's 2 extra zones, there's like a middle area, and then there's your opponent's zone.
Yeah.
And there's a very strong stack, like 20 tier 7s, upgraded tier 7s, blocking off the different zones.
Yeah.
And he plays that exclusively, and there's Pandora's boxes scattered everywhere. And when you go to a Pandora's box, units just join you. Like, they don't actually... It's not a random thing, it's just you get free units. And... so he plays very fast, he's very good, he's very strategic.
Yeah.
And you'll see him, like, if you go, like, there's Dragon Utopias everywhere, and you just go to those and you get, like, a bunch of artifacts and you keep going around.
Yeah.
And, so what's this guy's name? Night Elf? Or...
Yeah, Night Elf.
Night Elf.
Sorry, Dark Elf.
Dark Elf.
Yeah.
So, he's playing Age of Empires...
His way. It's his game.
Yeah, and it's the way I would actually like to play myself. And Lexiev...
And he's, like, he wins more than he loses as well. Like, his rank has slowly gone up over time.
And Lexiev is playing the game he wants to play.
Yeah.
But this is the part where my opinion comes into it now.
Yeah.
I think that Lexiev's way is wrong. And I also think that pro Age of Empires players, from what I've seen... Their way is wrong as well. But Age of Empires is a less broken game than Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
And also, the Heroes of Might and Magic random map is much more powerful, so you can edit the rules far greater. Although, like, the map editor in Age of Empires is amazing if you're using that. So I came up with a phrase, and I'll see if I can remember it. But I think that this is a game design thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Games... this is broad strokes, but games shouldn't be fun because you're winning.
Yeah.
You should be winning because you're having fun. And what I mean by that is you should still try to win.
Yeah.
But the funnest way to play the game should also be the way that gives you the most...
joy.
No, the funnest way to play the game should be the thing that makes you win the most often.
Yeah.
So...
I can agree with that. Like, in regards to RTSs, there's basically these... I kind of see it as 2 tiers of RTS player. Maybe you can sort of even put into 3. So, there's someone picking up the game.
Yeah.
And they're, like, a complete noob. No idea what they're doing, they're just trying to play the game. And my friend, like, Katie is sort of in that category. And 2 of my other friends are getting out of that category.
Yeah.
Then there's basically how I played it when I was... a kid, and you played it, and our dad played it, which we played number 2, but mostly number 3 is what we play against each other, which is trying to play the game, but playing the game without really knowing what you're doing, and you're sort of like playing have fun, like, I'm going to make this army, going to have like a bunch of these guys, then I'm going to send out this wave, and the wave dies. Then I'm going to build another wave and send out this wave, die, and I'm going to have like my barracks here, and this thing here, and you sort of have that, and you're playing the game, but you're just playing it. And then there's basically pro playing of RTSs, which is I've learned to do. And it's like, all right, start off the game, you have to do this. Boom, 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 boom. You got that done. All right, now you have to constantly be and do this. And you're like filling off checklists, basically.
Now, those checklists are imaginary. Build orders are not created by the game, they're created by the players.
Yeah, well, I don't have build orders. I just sort of do whatever. But I'm saying, like, you sort of have these, like, okay, this to this to this to this to this.
Right, but what I'm trying to get at there is someone who has played far less Age of Empires than me could beat me at Age of Empires if they followed a build order.
Yeah.
However, if we then both went to a game neither of us had played, let's say StarCraft, I would probably beat them.
Yeah.
Because I have more experience with RTSs in this hypothetical example. So I could develop a strategy faster than them.
Yeah, well,
but
a good example of that's actually, so I've started playing League of Legends a bit because my friends like play every once in a while. It's like, all right, I want to play with them, and went to like we were playing a game. It's like basically the first game I played. I had an account that made so I could play with them, and then it's like, wow, we lost the game. But it's like you did far better than we thought you would, and it's like, yeah, well, I have played like at their MOBA. Then I was playing some single player basically because you have to like get to level 10 in their leveling system of your account to actually play proper games. So I was like, all right, I'll just level up. So if in case like, hey, do you want to play League with us? I'm not going to be like a hamper and we have to play in some limited mode. And I realized that I was playing with completely new players. And like there's a few more people like on the enemy team that are more experienced than me. Like one guy on our team that experienced. But I was like playing and it's like, this person actually has no idea what they're doing. Like literally no idea what they're doing. Because like they walk forward underneath the enemy's like tower and it kills them because towers do that. They take you out really fast and like, all right. So he's seen that doesn't work. Oh, he's doing it again? Well, oh, he's doing it again? Why are you using your abilities? Why are you like walking into this enemy that's level 7? You're only level 4 and it's killing you. And I was like, and I was just sort of thinking, this guy actually, this might be like his 4th time playing the game. And he's just going, hey, what's going on? Oh, I've got this ability here. Oh, I don't know if I should press yet. Okay, I'll press. Oh, I missed. And it's like,
yeah, it's that. It's the. There's 2 different ways to approach a problem, and one is to. For example, in chess, to a certain degree, you can learn openings.
Yeah.
Or you can play a bunch of games until the openings are developed by you.
Yeah.
And then at that point, if you learn openings, then you understand them from a ground-up level. I guess it's a bit besides my original point. But yeah, it's interesting. And that isn't to say, like, if I played the Viper at Tooth and Tail, let's say.
Yeah.
He would probably beat me. Because he's played way more RTSs than me. No, he wouldn't probably beat me. He would beat me.
Yeah.
Like a game both of us have never played, theoretically.
Well, I think he even did that. I think he, like, not Tooth and Tail.
Yeah.
But he had a tournament with another guy. I don't know. He was, like, a pro in his scene.
Yeah.
And so, like, they played his game, and the guy beat the Viper.
Yeah.
And then they played Age of Empires, and the Viper beat him.
Yeah.
And then they played RTS that neither of them had ever played before. And they both, like, learned the game incredibly fast, but the Viper won.
Yeah, so there's... And I think even if you just follow build orders, you will learn eventually. But I think schooling, like, in school, when we're taught math, we are taught... So I was watching a Studio Ghibli film.
Yeah.
And there's a part where she has a math question, and it's divide 1/4 by 1/2.
Yeah.
Or 1/3, something like that. And... she gets the question wrong, and she gets all the questions wrong on her test, like dividing by fractions.
Yeah.
And her older sister's like, what's the matter? Are you stupid? Like, and she's talking with her mom, like, you dropped her on her head when she was a kid. There's a problem here. And they're all discussing, like, that might be it. And they're really worried about her. Like, why is our sister so stupid? And she's like, okay, I'll tutor her. So she tries to tutor her little sister, and she's like, okay, so don't you know how to do these fractions? It's easy. And her sister says... well, the teacher said you just flip the second fraction and then you multiply the top and you multiply the bottom. And so 1/4 divided by 1/3 would be 3/4.
Yeah.
And her sister says, so you can do this. What's the problem? And she said, well, I don't understand. Like you have 4 apples and you divide it by 2, so you give each person 2 apples. But you have 1/4 of an apple and you give each quarter to 1/3 of a person. That gives you 6 pieces. And she like cuts up an apple and she's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that, and schools, they do skip that step. But you can still teach it because I'll give a simple example.
Do you know how I learned math? Is I actually couldn't do that. Like those tricks and flip them. I was like that kid. It was like, no, I have to learn the math this way. Like, I was trying to figure out how to calculate acceleration with only distance traveled in time. I like asked our dad, what's the formula? And he sent it to me, and it's like, okay. And then I spent maybe a good 3 hours on this because I need to know how the formula worked. I could have just put the numbers in and trusted that it would be right. But it's like, no, I have to first calculate some velocity, see how this works with velocity. Then I have to do this and calculate this. Then I have to recheck. Then I have to okay, this makes sense here. I had to actually understand it to actually be able to use that formula.
So in the math example, I think what's going on is most of the teachers don't because math becomes very abstract very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think most of the teachers probably don't know why it works.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they do know why, they might not have a way to express it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to come up with a simple example. So let's say you have, if you look at the question differently, let's say you have 4 apples, and you are strong enough to carry 2 apples.
Yeah.
How many trips would it take you to take away all the apples? And so that is 4 divided by 2, and it would take you 2 trips to take away all the apples. So let's say you have a quarter of an apple.
Yeah.
And you're strong enough to carry... sorry, I'll do it the other way around. Let's say you have half an apple, and you're strong enough to carry away a quarter of an apple.
Yeah.
How long would it take you... How many trips would it take you to carry away the half apple? It would take you 2 trips. You'd take away a quarter each time.
Yeah.
And so 1/2 divided by 1/4 equals 2. And so I think with that... I don't know if that concrete example would help, but it would be an explanation for what's going on.
Yeah.
I had one in my calculus class that my teacher, I think he knew the answer, but he couldn't remember it at the time.
Yeah.
And I looked it up since, and then I forgot. But it's multiplying by negatives is actually really weird. Like, why is a negative times a negative a positive? So I think that one's not too bad in some ways, because what you could say you're doing is you're asking the area of 2 defined lines. So you're saying you have one line that is -3 and one line that is -5. So that area isn't going to be negative.
Because of grids. That is.
But if that's the case, then what is -4 times 5? Well, it's -20. But so
because of grids still.
But what does it mean? So is it the amount of... So let's say you dig a pit, right?
Yeah.
-5 feet. And then you dig you dig out its edges, and they're both 5 feet. So your pit is empty, and it's 2 positives and a negative. So that's -125 feet of space. That kind of makes sense. But then suppose you want it to be positive. So you dig a pit, and then you dig a line. So -5 times 5. But then you dig a negative line, and that doesn't... What is a negative line? It's... And there is probably a way to think about it, but I just don't have it at the moment.
I can draw on that. This thing's horrible, though.
Can you draw my orc army?
Maybe.
That's fine.
So this zone is positive.
Yeah. Yeah, but why? That's a Cartesian plane, but why does that matter? I think you have to do it without the Cartesian plane. I think. I'm not sure. And I think there is an explanation out there.
This is positive. This is negative. This is negative.
But it is one of those things that obviously the groundwork wasn't there for us.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily bad, but it means transferring that skill becomes harder when you have to be creative. And I don't think schools teach creativity very well at all. I saw someone did a great video on this, actually. They talked about Breath of the Wild puzzles and why some people hate them and why some people like them.
Yeah.
And their theory was that people who the school system, who followed the school system, hate the Breath of the Wild puzzles. And people, or it was more that, so when you play a puzzle game, typically the designer had a solution in mind.
Yeah.
And so you are trying to figure out what the designer wants you to do.
Yeah.
Which actually is why I don't like puzzle games. However, Breath of the Wild, a lot of the puzzles are like that, but there are some puzzles that are freeform, and there's one that might not even have a solution, like intended. It just gave you a bunch of pieces.
Yeah.
It's the waterfall one.
What was the one that I think is the most commonly abused one, where you have that thing, you're like you're supposed to rotate the ball through a maze, like there's those puzzles. But basically every single person I've ever talked about doing that puzzle, they put the ball onto the edge of it and flip it so it launches the ball.
Or you just flip the entire puzzle upside down.
Yeah.
And then you roll it on that smooth surface. And so that's an example of creative thinking. And I think so people can be creative.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is, this guy's theory was that there is, it makes people uncomfortable to not be able to see the designer's mind if they go in with the expectation that there is a correct answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought that was really interesting.
Well, so my physics teacher, a lot of people really didn't like his class. And part of the reason is how he marked questions in physics. So he'd give us a physics question, and he had fun making these things. Like, you could tell, it's like a clown steps off a bridge and falls like so far. Like, he'd always like add something flavor. It's like there was two guys racing, whatever. And so we had, it was each question was worth 5 marks, and he had the system. This was in the basic physics class, like the grade 11 physics, which is you have to have you have to basically write down the formula on the side. So you have to write down, was the like velocity, was the time. So you had to get basically every single component that's in the question, write them down clearly. Then you have to write down like the formulas and go through it. And that was, I think, 2 marks. Getting the answer right was a mark. Then the last 2 marks is, why is it like this? So it's like, well, like, how did you figure this out? It's like, okay, well, the clown's falling like this, and he's going this fast, and these are the things applying to him. And because he's accelerating by like 9.8 meters per second, then he's going to reach this speed when he's fallen that distance. So basically, you actually had to like write out a description of what's going on. And that was 2 marks. So you have to write down, why is this the answer, and how did you come to that conclusion?
Ooh, I wouldn't like that last bit. That sounds annoying.
And so a lot of people really didn't like that. And he basically wanted that to prove that you're thinking and not parroting. And like he constantly talked about it. He's like, I hate parroting. Like, another thing he would do is just ask a physics question, like, why is this a thing? I can't remember exactly, but it's like, why is this? And if you gave him the textbook answer, he would say, no, stop. Like, answer it yourself. And it's like, anyone can be taught just to say something back. I don't want you to be a parrot. I want you to be a kitten. It's how he's kind of like exploring and looking around things and figuring things out.
So my math teacher for calculus in college, the questions were out of 5.
Yeah.
4 of the marks were for showing your work.
Yeah.
1 was for getting the answer right. You could get the answer wrong and you get 4 out of 5 as long as you showed your work.
Well, like, if you showed the work, like if you did all the formula stuff, even if the numbers are wrong, like, you could mess up somewhere. If you had all the formula stuff, that's 2 marks. And if you said, okay, this is why it functions like this, that's another 2 marks. And it's like, oh, you got the answer wrong, so what?
And yeah, that's similar idea, but the write-up I would find annoying just because I don't like writing.
Yeah. Well, he said you can even, you were allowed to draw pictures.
Right.
Like, and also you were constantly like allowed to, like, he wanted pictures a lot of the time as well. Like, he'd say like it'd be the question, then like, so 1A, 1B, draw the squares and like show the motion and like draw it out. So it's like, okay, here's a cube, here's this going this direction.
Okay, if I was allowed to draw pictures, I might forget.
Yeah, no, I remember for like one of them is like I drew a clown like falling and an anvil falling next to him and like the whole thing.
So going way back now.
Yeah.
So I want to give 2 examples of games. So a game which is fun because you're winning is Monster Train. So in that game, you can it's a card game like Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
But you can modify your cards themselves. And you have monsters, which you can give various buffs to.
Yeah.
So one of the most powerful abilities in the game is multi-strike. So what you can do is you can have a creature that has, let's say, multi-strike 3, which means it'll attack 3 times, and it only does 1 damage. And then you cast on it Rage, which means it does 7 more damage.
Yeah.
So what that means is that your creature now does 8 damage per attack. So they're actually doing 8 times 3 or 8 times 5 attacks so they're doing way more damage than they were previously. So in Monster Train, the goal of the game is to make the most crazy, biggest numbers deck you can. And so The fun comes from watching the numbers go up.
Yeah.
And having pulled off, through a mixture of luck and skill, a very effective deck.
Yeah.
So it's kind of puzzle solving. Not exactly, but it's about making the numbers bigger.
Yeah.
And I think this is the same joy people find from games like Morrowind and JRPGs, where they love the early game not because it's fun, but because it's so rough. But if you stick through the grind, then you go back to the creatures that once threatened you, and you're strong enough to defeat them easily because your numbers have gone up.
Yeah.
Now, a game that is you're winning because you're having fun.
Yeah.
I will use Breath of the Wild as an example because it just works as so many examples of good game design. So Breath of the Wild, the funnest thing to do in the game is to explore all the systems and to explore the world. It's a game primarily about exploration.
Yeah.
Exploration gives you Koroks and Spirit Orbs.
Yeah.
And champion powers. And new items.
Yeah.
Koroks give you more inventory space. Spirit Orbs give you more stamina and health. Champion abilities make you much stronger. And more weapons gives you more options and more weapons. Mm-hmm. Plus finding people in the world that can upgrade your runes makes your runes more powerful. Which means that by satisfying your curiosity and exploring the world, the Ganon fight becomes easier every time. Like, you are winning the game, but you are not trying to win the game. You're winning the game by doing what you find to be the most fun. Mm-hmm. Whereas, if you wanted to win The Witcher, you could sit in an area where creatures respawned and kill them endlessly until you were max level.
Eesh.
And then that wouldn't work in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Your weapons would run out, and the creatures would all die, and you'd actually just level up because every time you kill a creature in Breath of the Wild, I have to say one more thing on it.
Yeah.
It has the best leveling system in any game, and there's a series that desperately needs to copy it, and that's the Elder Scrolls. So, Morrowind, Daggerfall, Arena, they didn't have level scaling, I think.
They did.
Morrowind might have.
Skyrim has it, that's weird.
Oblivion had horrible level scaling.
Yeah.
It meant that everything was always slightly stronger than you, basically, unless you were playing exactly the opposite of what you wanted.
Yeah. Then Skyrim's level scaling is weird.
Skyrim has level zones, so there will be creatures that are always the same level, and there will be creatures that are based on your level, and there will be zones that level up as you level up.
Yeah.
Skyrim's is very complicated and weird.
You can also...
And then there's Radiant Dungeons, which are exactly your level, I think?
Yeah, but they're your level the first time you enter them. So, there's this weird... It's like, speedruns... There's, like, different kinds of ways to speedrun Skyrim. But, there's this weird thing you can do for trying to complete Skyrim fast. Which is, there's, like, some dungeons that are really difficult. And this is, like, without using glitches, is you go to those dungeons, enter them, then leave, and they get locked at level 1. And then you come back later and you can just walk through them and complete them. And
that is actually a really good game design decision that the Skyrim developers made, however. Because that means you go to a dungeon, you die a bunch, you're like, man, I can't beat this. You go out into the world, you get new equipment, you get new spells, and then you come back and you can beat it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Oblivion, you come back to the dungeon and you lose again because everything got stronger too.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if Oblivion locks them in or not either, but that's just a very good design, I think, because it lets you overcome. However, Skyrim still has the problem where you can just like kill mud crabs until you're... Except then the level scaling counters
also,
it in theory.
Skyrim's big boss enemy, this is a problem I've heard, that the 2 DLCs did much better in Skyrim, but dragons fights aren't actually all that fun. And the final boss of Skyrim is a dragon fight with an annoying added bit that's very unsatisfying. And then as 2 DLCs, you have to like fight a vampire with a bunch of different abilities who's teleporting around. And then my game actually broke because Skyrim's really glitchy. Fighting the evil Dragonborn, he like drains souls from things, like teleports around, and he becomes invincible for a short while. And when mine became invincible for a short while, he got stuck being invincible. And so I had to jump the game state forwards to basically force him out that they died instantly and didn't drop any of his gear. And so I had to cheat in all his gear with like the commands.
So yes, the leveling system Breath of the Wild uses is that every enemy in the game is worth XP. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, you've said this before and on this podcast.
Okay, but it's amazing.
Like 3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Well, I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
You can kill each individual type of enemy in the game 10 times before they stop giving you XP.
Yeah.
What XP does is it levels up the monsters in the world. So if you were playing Skyrim and it had the system, because of the way Skyrim works is kind of weird. I was playing a game as a merchant.
Yeah.
And so my speechcraft was through the roof. My other skills weren't. There was very few creatures in the world I could beat, even one-on-one, because I was like, level 30.
Yeah.
With no fighting capability whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the world, whereas if they had the system, then imagine like, they could even like expand it, like every time you beat a merchant, the merchants level up somehow.
Yeah.
Every time you beat, and they could expand like merchants you haven't met are higher level, but the merchants you've met you can still abuse with your speech or something. And every time you beat a creature, the game's like, okay, you can handle stronger creatures, so we're going to do that. And the Elder Scrolls series, their whole level up system is through use you gain strength.
Yeah.
And so it's very weird that there's this arbitrary... It's weird that you level up at all in Skyrim, actually.
Yeah.
What I would do is remove levels altogether, and then perks would be Dragon Souls. Like, that seems so obvious. I don't know why that isn't how the game works.
Yeah.
But anyway, Breath of the Wild, a little bit more. If the best Skyrim player, in quotation marks, played Skyrim, and they fought the final battle with a level 1 character, maybe they could win. I don't know. They're probably crazy.
Yeah.
But if I fought that same boss with all the best gear, I could beat it. If you take... the game is based more around what state your numbers are at.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure that at the very upper echelons of Skyrim players, they can do more than you'd think. But I imagine it's boring for the most part.
They launch themselves with horses. It's weird.
Now, if you take... I sent you the video, I don't know if you watched it, of Cleric.
With his back broken?
Yeah, but the second video I sent you.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And also he did a fight montage last year.
I saw that, yeah.
But the one he did this year I think is even more impressive. If you gave him all basic gear, he could beat anything in the game.
Yeah.
He's the guy that beat Ganon with a stick.
Is he also the guy who showed how to beat Ganon with Cuckoo? Or is that someone else?
It might have been him. Like, I imagine he'd do it, but I know for sure that he's the guy that beat Ganon with a stick.
Beating Ganon with a Cuckoo is dumb.
But if you watch his videos, I'm sure there is like a couple hundred takes in there.
Yeah.
But he can use the existing systems, regardless of equipment, in order to play more skillfully than someone else.
Yeah.
Similar to a fighting game. So I prefer your skill in a game comes through mastery by the player, not mastery of the character.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer a fighting game or something like Breath of the Wild over something like The Witcher.
Yeah.
Or Skyrim. Although I think Skyrim encourages creativity because it's not really about your level, it's about your equipment.
Yeah.
And so you can prepare for events. You can get scrolls, you can get potions, you can buy spells.
And Divinity's a bit of a mix.
And Divinity, I think, is largely your tactical ability. That said, their level scaling makes that not matter nearly as much.
Yeah.
Because you have to fight the game in a specific order.
Well, you kind of do. It depends on... Divinity 1, you can...
Did we mod Divinity 1?
No, we never did.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I watched a review of Divinity 1 recently, and the guy's biggest complaint was that at the start of the game you could go anywhere.
Yeah.
But at a certain level, like level 5 or something, I can't remember what he said, or level 9 or whatever, you reach a point where you have to follow the path set out by the developers because you'll lose if you take any other path.
Yeah, no. We spent... Because the first zone that you enter, where it's all the undead, is you have to be around level 5 to get through that, and it's hard. Then once we went through the undead, and we basically followed the path of going through all the undead. Then after that, we basically played the rest of the game with enemies being 2 to 4 levels above us.
Yeah, well, I think 1 or 2 zones above us.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
we skipped a whole chapter of the game by accident.
We skipped Brachus Rex.
Yeah.
And we skipped that flaming demon-y thing.
Yeah, and we skipped fighting this hunting down the sorcerer's hideout, the original one.
Yeah, and then he said another complaint he had with the game was that the quest of infiltrating the sorcerers was way too fiddly and long.
Yeah.
And we just kicked down the door and killed everyone. And it took us like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, yeah, because we beat the goblins. Like, that's the first really silly thing we did, is we beat the goblins.
Way before we had the levels to do so.
Yeah, and then from there we continued on just taking fights like that, and we beat the Spider Queen in a very fiddly way, and we...
beat the Troll King by running around piles of gold.
Yeah, in the Fairylands, we let most entities die by getting hit by raining fire.
Yeah.
Until we fought and then in the palace, we let things freeze solid and like used effects. Against the Ice King, we had to break the game.
Yeah. Well, he also said that the
against the Lich, we kited her across the world so she could no longer summon her ridiculously powerful...
Cassandra?
Yeah, Cassandra. We kited her out of her own zone, then imprisoned her so her zombies could no longer get to her because they're like ridiculously overpowered. And then we trapped her in a box so she could never suck up blood, because that heals her really fast, and then we killed her with ranged attacks.
And then against the Weresheep, we paralyzed its guardians and, and murdered it with...
But yeah, no, like, almost every fight we did, we were weaker. Like, the Chaos Knights that could only be hurt by Tenebrium, or the Death Knights, so we, like, did some weird cheesy thing against them, just so we could sneak past them and steal their treasure.
Yeah, did we put them in fire or something? There was some way
we smoke clouded them,
right,
and then surrounded them with boxes after smoke clouding them, so they could no longer move.
Right, and we just like went through the entire camp without a fight properly.
Yeah, we ignored every Death Knight so we could steal their loot, and then we like killed all the cultists who weren't invincible. Then we got Tenebrium later, went back and killed the Death Knights because it's XP.
So, my point of that is not to brag about it, because I'm sure there's lots of people that could do it, but that this reviewer, Never Knows Best is his name. And I think he's one of the best reviewers on YouTube that I've seen. Probably one of the best on YouTube in general. And this is the danger of open-ended games, like Breath of the Wild or Divinity, or even Skyrim, I think, to some degree, is that the players can play them wrong.
Yeah.
Because his complaints were not issues for us in the slightest. He's like, this game is amazing except for these complaints.
Yeah.
But we didn't experience any of those problems. And
well, even then, like, how you can choose different ways to level up your characters. We like had an abusive party. And
he also except we didn't like look up anything. We just sort of took what looked best and ended up being basically the best.
Yeah, it's one of the builds that's like apparently really good, but also we just like it's an abusive party.
Yeah. But so I think Divinity is very clearly a game where the player skill matters far more than the party.
Yeah.
I think even something like Baldur's Gate, you would think that, like D&D... See, D&D is actually a game where the player skill doesn't matter nearly as much as the levels. And I think this is the same reason people like games like D&D and Kenshi and Morrowind, to some degree, is because they are role-playing. And what they consider a role-playing game is one where your skill doesn't matter. It's your character's skill that matters. So it's like you're reading a book and you're watching the character become stronger and you're following their... You're watching a training montage.
Yeah.
And except you can participate directly in it. And so I'm really torn on that idea because on the one hand it seems cool.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, a game like Kenshi or Morrowind sounds to me like you're at either like a casino or a cookie clicker game and you're wasting your life. Like you're not respecting your own time.
Yeah, well, like I've said that's my problem with Hades is you actually have to cookie clicker a bit. And I was playing Dead Cells again, just trying to get to a certain point. And I set my game to Zero's boss cells.
Yeah.
Basically, so I could try to find the zone as fast as possible. And I remember first time playing, like I took several tries to get through the first zone. And it's like the only thing that's different about my character is my starting weapon. I don't have any improved stats, nothing. Sure, I have more potions, but I actually didn't need to use a potion to get through the first zone in 2 minutes, like less than 2 minutes, taking no damage. And it's just like I zoomed through that thing because I knew what I was doing.
Actually, you're selling yourself short there. I don't know if you remember, but I showed you Dead Cells.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first time you played the game, I think you made it to the first boss.
Oh, did I?
Because we were gonna like take turns, and then like you just kept going and going.
Oh, okay. Because I do.
And then like after that, you started like dying a bunch.
Yeah.
But it was like you just had this run that just worked.
I do remember I was showing a friend of mine Dead Cells, and I was like, all right, I installed it for the first time on my new computer, and I was like, all right, I'll just go until I die. And that was a bad metric because I beat the clock tower, and that's like, and this is on my first run of like this new playthrough. I was like, all right. I quit the game, created a new account, like, here, you can play it now. She's like, okay. And she had a lot of fun with it, but it's just like, oh my. I didn't think I would get to the clock tower, and even then I was like, yeah, I just have to stop.
I think this is, I wonder if, this is a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play Mario,
Mm-hmm.
and you're very skilled, you're going to do, you're going to be able to go through the game, no problem.
Yeah.
You don't in Mario you don't level up so that you can take more hits. Like
Yeah.
you don't take 3, like you can get temporary power-ups and there's map knowledge which is important. But if you watch a lot of Mario YouTubers, they now do
Mario
Maker and they'll
Which
play
is brilliant, honestly, for them. Like the Mario Maker for Mario Maker YouTubers is brilliant because it's challenging for them because it's not a map they know by heart, but they're so good they can basically it's pure skill.
That's my point, is they'll never see the same like they don't know where the mushroom is, they don't know where. That is what the designer of Splunky, that's why his game is a roguelike. He didn't do it to extend the replayability. He did it because he didn't want people to learn his maps. He wanted people to have to adapt. And Splunky even does stuff like it will punish you for dying repeated. Like the more you die in the first couple levels, the worse loot and boxes becomes. So why he did that is because there is a chance you get like the best item in the game from a box. So what people will do, if you want to game the system, is you run to the first box you see, break it open. If it's not a jetpack or a cape, you kill yourself and then restart the level. However, if you kill yourself, you're never going to get a cape. So he basically forces the players to play the game and deal with what they have, which I think is amazing design.
Yeah.
And it sucks for speedrunners, but that's the point, is to have mastery of the systems, not of the level design and whatnot. So Metroid is actually different. You actually gain more power shields, you gain more missiles, you gain more. And I wonder if it's two divergent philosophies almost.
Well, Metroid's weird though because it gives you like more power, but every power up basically adds an enemy that's even harder than the last. Like that's the thing about Metroid, is basically half the power ups make it so you don't instantly die, and the other half make it so you can hurt enemies that were invincible before. That's like basically the power ups, is Metroid puts you on level with the enemies and zones.
Yeah, and they let you go to the zones, which is nice.
Like that's sort of Metroid's power ups actually are like, if you don't have this thing, you can't win the game.
But I do find it kind of, and Metroid actually has a very cool feature where if you play the game again, or if you were paying really close attention the first time, there's no tutorial in the game.
Yeah.
But if you watch the animals in, is that the first game or the third game?
Third game.
Third game. If you watch the animals in the third game, they do stuff that, like, you'll go to this elevator shaft that you need to get the, like the super bomb jump or whatever to go up. But if you watch the animals, they wall jump up the shaft. It turns out you can also wall jump.
Yeah.
And there's another part where the animals dash or something. I can't remember what they do. But the animals show you hidden moves that exist in the game that you can use at any point.
Yeah. And
you can use it to skip huge sections of the game. And I think that's really cool. But there's still... So D&D, I think, is a very good example of this problem.
Yeah.
Every time you level up in D&D, you have to fight harder and harder foes.
Yeah.
So what's the point of leveling up, in a way?
Giving you more options, basically.
Yeah, it's to give you more options. But at that point, you should almost get all the options to begin with.
Well, I feel like it's also so you're in this world. So, like, D&D, the enemies get tougher, but, like, there's a dragon in a castle, right? and you know you can't beat that dragon. And so you become stronger, and now you can beat that dragon. And then you go back to the town that was full of rogues that really annoyed you, and now these rogues are nothing to you.
Well, yeah, and I think that is good, but the world has to exist ahead of time for that to work.
Yeah.
And that's why a game like Dungeon Lords works.
Mm-hmm.
But games like Oblivion that do level scaling, your level actually doesn't matter.
Even in Dungeon Lords, the things that were weak before, there's just so many of them, it doesn't matter.
But Dungeon Lords has no level scaling, so if you go to an area you can't beat, you can come back later and you can beat it.
Or you just turn down random encounters.
But the game design of leveling up not being skill related means you have to make things harder to compensate so the game difficulty stays the same.
Yeah.
Whereas a game like Mario forces you to become better and better over time.
Yeah.
And so the world becomes harder, but it doesn't have to become harder as fast, and it requires the player to actually learn more and more and more. And
yeah, that's definitely a problem with The Witcher. Because when I come back to play The Witcher, like maybe I want to like just play for an hour, it's like, oh, I don't remember how to do any of the fighting in this game. But it doesn't matter because I'm so high level, and like everything's lower level than me now.
And the other thing with The Witcher is the combat is so simple.
Yeah.
I was fighting a level 30 thing when I was level 5 or something.
Yeah.
And I couldn't beat it. But I think I could have, given enough dedication. But the issue is that, not that it could kill me in one hit. That's fair. It's way higher level.
Yeah.
The problem was that I was doing less than 1% of its health per hit. So skill didn't matter at all.
Well, what really disappointed me is the moment I felt the most clever in The Witcher is when I fought like a group of ghouls that are like level 15, and I think I was level 8. They might have been higher than level 15, so they're way higher level than me. And I figured out a way to get on top of a roof.
Yeah.
And so I'd hit them, then I'd climb up the roof and regen, then I'd hit them, climb back on the roof, and the ghouls regen themselves, so I had to be skilled enough to kill at least one ghoul, so like kite away from the group so they wouldn't all hit me, and then I could get that ghoul stun locked and like keep throwing bombs at. Then once I had killed, I'd climb back on the roof and wait for another one to wander far enough away from the group for me to jump down, aggro it, kill it by itself. So it was like constantly isolating, like pulling them, like doing these clever little tricks and like jumping behind bushes and throwing bombs. And there's no reward for that. And it was really hard and it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But like you do that in a different video game and it's like, oh, you could actually get something out. But it made me never want to do that again.
And I don't think like giving you XP should be the reward for something like that even. It should be making the enemies harder, and it should be access to a new area.
Yeah.
And like if it's a new item, maybe, but really I think that, and I'm not saying leveling up is bad. I'm more asking, is leveling up bad? Because I think it might be. I think it's playing into addiction.
Yeah.
But it's also fun to just see things get stronger. So I'm torn.
There's also
maybe it's safe gambling, and safe gambling's fine.
Yeah. What was the game called?
Or a safe stock market.
Shadow of Mordor, not Shadow of War.
Yeah.
Because I think Shadow of War is actually a worse game than Shadow of Mordor.
Oh.
Shadow of Mordor has a very interesting leveling up system. I actually think it's really fun because it's like a lot of special effects and like there's cool abilities you can do and you like can take over enemies, and has like a leveling up system that basically you can choose a playstyle through the leveling up system. So that's one thing leveling up does, is it lets you choose a play system. But also, as you progress the game, there gets to be more and more enemy variety. And also, like the game is set up so there's like enemies in a certain zone, and you can like try to play the game stealthily. But being high level in that game allows you to fight, let's say, 50 enemies, right? If you're level 1, you can't fight 50 enemies. Because like you don't have the abilities, you can't like do these blink strikes and stuff.
You've not seen me spam the B button in that game. You just hop over their shoulders endlessly.
The shield enemies
until they knock you off a cliff, and then
but
I die to spear guys most of the time.
Yeah, so being high is weird. Like you can basically start off the game having it, but you won't learn as well that way. I don't know, and you won't be able to like choose a playstyle because like you can get to max level and then have everything unlocked. But when you're level 25, you've chosen a path to go with your skills. And you could be a stealth master, you could be a melee master. But it's like, level 25 allows you to fight the 50 enemies. But you have to be better than you were when you were level 1 fighting 2 enemies to fight the 50 enemies at level 25. And, like, it basically allows you to have the more epic moment that requires a lot of skill.
Yeah, which I think all the games are going for. Mm-hmm. And they do to various success.
I think Shadow of Mordor is probably one of the most successful ones at that, actually.
So I think what I would rather have than leveling up in a game, this is just spitballing here a little bit. Imagine a game designed, it would have to be kind of like a Dark Souls, Metroidvania sort of design. Mm-hmm. But I don't want it to be, like, it isn't that kind of game. This is just the only way I could see the leveling up working. So imagine you're playing a game like, actually Mario's designed this way. Super Mario World especially. I think, like, what's his name? Miyamoto is just, like, one of the best game designers in the world. Anyways, so this is my RPG design, let's say. Because Mario already does this, I just realized. But I'm going to design an RPG now. Okay, so what happens is you do not level up in this game. You don't gain extra health. You don't gain extra whatever. You have all that to begin with. Yeah. And your damage doesn't increase over time. So the only thing that increases is Shadow of Mordor type thing skills, where if you had all the skills at the start of the game, they would be underused and overwhelming because you would just stick to the one that you were comfortable with, and then you wouldn't get to see the rest of the game. Yeah. And that would be disappointing. So instead you start with no skills, and then there is essentially, let's say, 3 world paths. Like there's cliffs here, oh, that's in the way, and there's an ocean here, and there's a big army here. Yeah. To overcome each of these pathways, like if you wanted to scale the cliff, for example, you'd have to master at least 1 or 2 of the game's systems. Mm-hmm. Once you successfully overcame that obstacle, let's say climbing a cliff, at the top of the cliff there would be like a boomerang or a glowing gem or a magic spirit bow type item. You take that spirit bow, it lets you shoot a campfire and teleport to the campfire in a big explosion. Yeah. Now, you have that power. Sorry. the games just feel good. Yeah. But, so now you have that power. Now, you have to utilize this power, and once you get to the top of the cliff, you see 3 other pathways in front of you. Yeah. And these pathways, I'm not saying, like, linearly. Yeah. This is what your rough world sketch would be, and then you'd try to make it feel much more organic once you actually built the world. Like, a world more like Breath of the Wild. Yeah. Because Breath of the Wild does push and flow you, and I didn't realize that at all, but I watched... In my second playthrough, I actually ended up on the intended path, and I was like, oh wow, there's like tutorials all the way along here.
The elephant first.
No, well, there's that, but there's also like I never actually met Sidon. His cutscene doesn't trigger if you beat the elephant before you walk through that area, I guess. Oh. So I never met him, and I didn't know what everyone was talking about, because I flew in from above and landed in the city. Oh. I just climbed in the rain. I had like 1 billion stamina potions.
Oh, really? Yeah. So he never like brought you up the waterfall?
No, I just climbed to the top of that place and then I jumped in. That's how I got there.
He's like the best character in the game, though.
And I never saw the old man teaching you to cut down trees. Oh. And I never talked to the old man except when he gave me the paraglider, basically. Oh. And when I activated the tower. So, but there is actually a path, and the second time I've played, I've noticed it now. And I'm like, oh, this is really well built. So anyways, once you get that arrow, you have to master the use of that arrow. Like, there's way too many enemies for you to fight, let's say, in one of these new paths that you've opened. Yeah. But they happen to always be gathered around this campfire. So if you get there without that skill, you're like, I can't fight this. But if you do have that skill, you can beat them. And then, past them a bit, there's this skill that lets you mind control someone. Yeah. And the entire world would be branching out like this. And the idea would be that leveling up doesn't exist, but gaining complexity of skills exists. Mm-hmm. However, in order to gain those skills, you have to demonstrate mastery of the previous skills, which is kind of how a Metroidvania works.
It's kind of what Shadow of War did. Like, they gave more allowance and let you do a bit of grinding in case you sucked. But
and they also... And maybe that would be... So if you... See, Breath of the Wild does this good again, where you don't need to get heart containers, but if you explore and you need them, they're there. Like, I beat Breath of the Wild with 7 hearts, I think. Because
you don't take damage.
Yeah, like, and the other thing is the armor in that game is really overpowered. Like, tier 3 armor if you get hit by the strongest thing in the game, you take like a heart of damage. Like you don't have to worry about it. And also I only had 7 hearts, but I could make food that would give me 22 temporary hearts.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would that be plus 20 hearts? It'd be ridiculous. So again, I think Breath of the Wild does it like flawlessly. Mm-hmm. And Miyamoto invented Zelda. He didn't make Breath of the Wild.
No.
But he did. Did you hear that story about him playtesting it?
No.
The first time they showed it to them, they're like, okay, here's Miyamoto. Okay, come on. I hope you like this game. And so he took the game and they spawned him in like Hyrule Field or something.
Yeah.
And so he's walking around and he walked by a tree and he noticed Link climb the tree. So he just started climbing the tree and then he went down and went to another tree and climbed up it and climbed down. And the lead designer, apparently, like they were huddled together and they're like, oh no, he hates it. He's just playing. They're like, there's other parts of this game. We made this really cool combat system and like, this isn't the only part of the game. Don't worry, it's not this boring. And he's like, boring? This is wonderful.
This giant climb up and down trees. Honestly, I enjoyed that.
I didn't know you could. And so I was like, I saw an apple hanging from a tree and I was like, oh, that's a nice bit of decoration or something. And then I saw an axe and I was like, no way, no. And then I was like, I cut down the tree and I was like, oh, you can cut down the trees? And then later on I was like, I wonder if you could like shoot an arrow at the apple. And you can shoot an arrow at the apple. And then I was like, I saw a big tree and I climbed up it because it was like, okay, big tree, this makes sense. Climbed up the big tree. And then I was like, went to a small tree and I thought, can you climb a small... No, they wouldn't let you climb a small tree.
You can climb anything in Breath of the Wild as long as it's not Gerudo walls.
And I climbed the small tree and my mind was blown. This game, like, that game is freedom.
I remember the thing... do you know the chasm? Which, if you go to the bottom, you die?
Like, in that mine?
No.
It's like a diamond mine looking thing?
No, it divides 2 planes. So you jump, you can glide across it, but it's like dividing 2 different parts of the map. So you come from the mountains to the plains, and there's this giant chasm. And like there's parts where you can land, but there's just like darkness at the bottom.
Like from the Great Plateau to somewhere else? Or?
No.
No, I'm not. Maybe I haven't been there.
Okay.
Anyway,
it has like a lot of undead nearby. I was like, I wonder if there's anything down there. So I climbed down the...
Oh, wait, you're talking about the cold mountains and then no, you can go to the bottom of that. There's like a spoiler down there, but it's like this giant crevice that goes across the top of the map.
So
you can go to the bottom of that.
I fell down there and it's like, okay, and then I tried gliding down there. I died somehow trying to glide down there. It's like, fine. And so I had a bunch of like food that gives you increased stamina, and I climbed down like using the climbing function, got to the bottom, and I was like, uh-oh, because all my food for stamina was gone. And I was like, how do I get out? And it turns out if you just walk long enough, then there's an easier place to climb out. But I was just like, actually couldn't get out. I got stuck down there for a while.
But that kind of thing, like on the Great Plateau, there's a part where you can jump off. It's near it's near that chasm that you build the bridge over.
Yeah.
You can jump off of it to get onto another mountain.
Yeah.
And so I played most of the game hopping over that and going around.
Yeah.
And like 100 hours into the game or something, I realized there's a whole other level down there.
Yeah.
With like, there's this series of bridges with a Hinox in the middle, and there's
these weird pulley systems. Is that the place with the weird pulley systems where you can like use the magnet thing to basically activate elevators?
No.
Oh.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's like it's in the desert plateau mountains.
Yeah.
Where you're
So this is leaving that and then going around where that waterfall comes out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then you go around the bottom of the plateau.
Okay. See. We can sort of know where we're talking about. In The Witcher, you're like, there's that mountain.
So you know that swamp? Oh, actually, The Witcher has a giant hill with an absolutely massive tree on it that you can see from basically anywhere on the map.
Yeah.
You know what happens if you go to that tree?
You're at the edge of the world.
You can't.
You're at the edge of the world.
You're at the edge of the world.
There's,
Who puts a landmark like that?
In Blood and Wine, there's also a land feature like that, which you can basically see from anywhere, and it's awesome looking. And if you walk there, it's the edge of the world. And I hated it so much. I wanted there to be so much more around this. Like, I wanted a story around this place, and there isn't.
The CD Projekt Red,
they do that in Cyberpunk. There's a few zones where you're like, this could be really cool. And so I start walking out in that direction, like, this looks neat. Like, I'm leaving the city limits. There's like these hills here. Oh, there's this giant dam. There's no content here. Yet. Whoop!
I said it before Cyberpunk came out,
Yeah.
and I'll say it again. They make very polished Ubisoft turds.
Yes.
Like,
I'll agree with that.
but I think Ghost of Tsushima, from what I've heard, does it even better.
Yeah.
Like, they just... I heard someone say, actually, that Ghost of Tsushima perfected the Ubisoft open world.
The Ubisoft turd.
To the point where they thought, this is perfect, and the only way for this to improve, and it needs to improve, is for people to try something different, and Breath of the Wild already did that. So...
Yeah, I want more open world games like Breath of the Wild that aren't Genshin Impact and aren't Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix Rising, I think, even misses the point.
Yeah, it does.
And I think...
Genshin Impact misses the point as well, actually.
I think Genshin Impact buries it, but I think it's there.
Yeah.
But they bury it under their gotcha mechanics. And they also have like a... Actually, no. Genshin Impact does something. I haven't played it, but I've seen people play the first 4 hours.
Yeah.
They do something... They explain all the elemental interactions in depth, and they explain how to solve all the puzzles in the game, which defeats the entire purpose of the game.
Yeah.
Because then you are the parrot, not the kitten.
Yeah.
And the whole point is creativity.
Well, I remember when Breath of the Wild was getting designed, way, way back, like when they first designed it, and they released the trailer. This wasn't the trailer of Link running through the woods.
Right.
This was the first trailer.
Where they showed the gameplay?
No. Oh. The very first trailer of Breath of the Wild showed a forest. And there's the wind effect that you can see? You follow one of those wind effects, and it sweeps up and goes over a mountain. This is
that's the trailer I sent you just the other day.
Yeah.
Where Cleric recreated it.
No, this wasn't that trailer.
Oh.
This wasn't a proper trailer. This was a video... Sorry.
It's like an announcement trailer?
Not even an announcement trailer. It was the trailer they sent the American team to let them know what they're doing. It's like a documentary of the making of. However, this documentary came out before the game was released, so it was like some weird promotional video. Anyway, so it showed basically you're sweeping up, gliding through a forest, and then it goes over a mountain, and then it shows some horses around. It's very similar to that. And then it says Breath of the Wild, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then the guy said, why we're calling it Breath of the Wild is we want this game to be different than every other Legend of Zelda game, in which you're in a wild environment you've never explored before. It's Hyrule you've never seen before. And it's basically nature, like raw nature. That's the idea. You're in this wild, raw world, and you're just trying to survive and explore and live in it.
Sounds a lot like Zelda 1.
But it's that's what they wanted. Basically, they're talking about, they wanted this to be completely different than any other game. And
except the first Zelda.
Yeah.
I think they based it on the first Zelda, actually.
But it was, really cool. They're talking about the design. Apparently, they spent a lot of time just working on the trees and, the mountains. And one of the big things I remember them talking about in this thing is if you see a mountain, not only can you go, hey, that's a cool-looking mountain. I want to walk over there.
You can go there.
You can climb up that mountain and see what's on the other side of it. And then you can go to what's on the other side.
Yeah. If you see it, you can go there. Which is something that Ubisoft does.
Yeah.
But, and, what's that company? Bethesda does that to a degree as well. And Rockstar.
Yeah.
There's 4 companies that do it. Nintendo, Bethesda, Ubisoft, and Rockstar.
Yeah.
And...
But there's also a thing in Breath of the Wild that you go to.
Yeah, it's actually something interesting. Rockstar, I think, does a decent job too.
Yeah.
But they have... Well, Rockstar and Nintendo both have, thousands of people.
The Red Dead Redemption Online is $7 right now.
Oh, wow.
It's on massive sale.
Well,
only if you buy from their website.
And I'm not... I don't know. Rockstar games, I quite enjoy, not the game, but the open world. But yeah, no, it's... I forgot what I was going to say. Just it's a masterpiece. Breath of Freedom, Wild. There was something about that. Oh yeah, when I first played Breath of the Wild, I'm very glad that you wanted that game for Christmas because I saw the trailer for it.
Yeah.
And it looked like another 3D Zelda.
That was a complete Christmas present. Just talking about the Sega.
Yeah. But I'll talk about what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Breath of the Wild, you got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I had seen the trailers back in 2015.
Yeah.
But it looked like another Skyward Sword or another Twilight Princess. And I don't actually like the 3D Zelda games. And I'm not much of a Zelda fan in the first place. And
says the guy with his Switch is covered with Breath of the Wild stuff.
I'm not even much of a Nintendo fan to some degree. Like they're my favorite of the three, but
his Switch is quite literally a Breath of the Wild device.
Yeah, I've got a Sheikah Slate sticker on it, and I've got a carrying case that's like engraved with Link.
Yeah,
but I'm not a huge Legend of Zelda fan. I'm not. I don't even like I kind of like Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Twilight Princess I found was way too slow.
Yeah,
and I like Link to the Past, but I found it way too hard back when I played it, and that's about it. But Breath of the Wild, so I wasn't ever going to touch this game.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything on it. And then you got it,
yeah.
and you were playing it, and I didn't even watch you play, I don't think.
That's because I played it in the handheld. I didn't play it on TV.
So I didn't even watch you play it, but then, I don't know what, I just wanted to try it or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can I just do like a side account? And so I played a bit of your Celeste game, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll try a bit of Breath of the Wild. And I fell in love so fast with that game. Like, it was ridiculous. And I thought that the entire world was the Great Plateau plus the distance between the Great Plateau and Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
So about twice the size of the Great Plateau, I thought was the entire world. Because I didn't look down, like those endless chasms, because I was so used to Legend of Zelda games. If you fall down a chasm, Link goes, oh, wow! And then you appear at the top, and that's it. And I was so used to...
more that was more like Yoshi or Mario.
Fog, fog, you can't go there.
Yeah.
And then I played Breath of the Wild, and I got the hang glider, and I was standing on a mountain at night because I had read a riddle as one of the quests because they did a crossover with Xenoblade.
You saw the lightning dragon?
No, I didn't see that until you saw it.
Oh, okay.
That was the first. I didn't know that was in the game after playing for 50 hours or something.
Okay.
No, I was standing on top of a mountain, and it's had a clue. It said stand on the highest point or the bridge or something.
Yeah.
And look to the east and look for the falling star.
Yeah.
And so I saw a shooting star. I didn't actually see the red star that it's supposed to be. I just saw a shooting star, which is a feature in the game, which is crazy. Yeah. Who puts a shooting star in a game? And I thought, can I go to that thing? And so I tried going for it, and I died. And I was, I'm going to try again. And I tried again, and I died like 10 times. Mm-hmm. And then because I kept landing, the problem was shooting stars happen at night.
Yeah.
And I was landing on a hilltop at night to run after it. And creatures came out and killed me, undead creatures. Yeah. And it was also on the other side of the second most heavily fortified moblin camp in the game.
Yeah.
And so I had to run through the camp because I was like just leaving the Great Plateau. This was the first time I left the Great Plateau was to try to get to the star.
Yeah.
And so I had to run through this camp with nothing and avoid everything I came across. And I didn't have enough stamina to run very fast, and I didn't have enough stamina to fly very fast. And I eventually got to the star, and I realized that, wait a minute, this map is like 15 times the size of the Great Plateau.
Well,
that mountain there, you can go there. That mountain there, you can go. I didn't know you could do that.
I remember, like, the first time seeing a dragon in that game, like, the first time you see the lightning dragon
comes out of that lake, and
you're just like, what?
And it makes you think, what's going to happen next? Like, there could always be something more.
I'm going to shoot that with my bow.
I'm going to close, I think, because I want to eat, with a little interesting story.
Yeah.
So, Super Mario World is one of my favorite games of all time. And it's a weird one because I never got very far in it.
Yeah.
But I've played most of the levels because I've played on other people's saves.
Yeah.
But I think every level introduces something new.
Yeah.
Like, I think it might be every single level. And there's a lot of levels.
Yeah.
There's like...
Oh, this time this Koopa walks right.
There's like 64 levels or something or more.
Yeah.
No, then there's Star World, which adds another 8. So there's like 70 levels or something.
And then there's the Boo Castles and...
Yeah, like the hidden levels and all that. And part of the reason I never got very far was I'd run out of lives after beating 1 or 2 levels.
Yeah.
And I loved the game. It was this, you got the cape, you get the blue Yoshi, and you're like off to the races, but it's still very hard.
Yeah.
So second story. They'll tie them together. Yeah. Minecraft, the first time I played, this massive world, infinite. And you're going around, and at night I would go into a church and I would hide in the church. Mm-hmm. And I would dig like pillars I'd build pillars into the sky and put torches on them so I could find my way back home.
Yeah.
And climbing mountains, fall off and die so many times, and you lose all your gear because they didn't have a way to save your gear back then.
Yeah.
They didn't have that game rule, or at least we didn't know how to activate it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you died, you'd lose everything. So climbing a mountain was terrifying because if you slipped and fell, you'd lose everything. Finding a chasm for the first time, mining into the earth, you go down and down, and all of a sudden there's a chasm. And if you fall off, you'll die, or you'll land in lava and you'll lose everything. Mm-hmm. So I had to build a mine shaft all the way down. Like, I placed rails all the way down a chasm, bit by bit, carefully, so I wouldn't fall down. There wasn't multiplayer back then, so we would take turns, like, showing each other our creations.
Yeah.
And giving our tours of our places. And I created this massive house above the ground, which was this mind-blowing achievement because it is so difficult to build above ground in Minecraft. Like, if you build on the ground, you can place it against the ground, but there's nothing to place it against, and there's the risk of falling off your structure constantly. Yeah. And so I showed you this house I'd made that was floating above the ground, and it took me tens of hours at least. It was very difficult to do. So here's the thing. Minecraft has a button called the shift key.
Yes.
Which means you don't fall off ledges. So there's no danger falling off a mountain. There's no danger falling into a chasm. And building a house in the sky is actually very easy.
Yeah.
In Mario, you can spin jump, which means that most spiky objects don't hurt you if you spin jump on them.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not good at Super Mario, but I usually die by falling down infinite holes, but still.
But I just, like, tripled your skill at Mario, if not more.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that an unintended flaw added to the magic of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if someone played Breath of the Wild and they never learned how to use the hang glider, I think they would have these magical memories of trying to traverse a map that wasn't made for it. Because the thing about Minecraft and the thing about about Super Mario World, they're designed with these mechanics in mind. You're meant to be able to bounce off of the enemies, and you're meant to be able to
start playing Breath of the Wild and play again, and not use a hand glider except inside the puzzle rooms.
So when I play Breath of the Wild, I've got a custom rule set I'll give you.
Okay.
I have been working on it, and I'm pretty proud of it. All right. So, but when I played Breath of the Wild, there's a funny video of this woman who finds the tutorial after beating 3 divine beasts.
Yeah.
I found it after beating 2. Because I didn't go to the whatever village, the Sheikah village, until much, like 100 hours into the game or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was parrying, and I didn't know there was dodging.
Yeah.
And the only reason I learned about shield surfing was I just, like, mashed buttons at one point, and I, like, did a front flip, and I was like, oh, cool.
Well, the one thing I've always wanted to do was, I still haven't done it, but I want to jump on a bear's back, and, was it you put something in front of it so it falls it?
I think you can just control it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've ridden a few bears in my time, but
I just haven't found a bear.
They're quite rare. There is a bear cave. So if you go to Sheikah village, you go up onto one of those big knobbly things, those mountainy things, and you go down, there is a little lake. It just looks like there's nothing there. Except like a little Korok thing. But if you go down into it, there's actually like a sort of hollowed out section with probably a shrine or a Korok or something. And on the other side, there is a little private glade that's hidden from above with trees and stuff. And there's a bear den in it. It's very nice. Very pretty. There's a lot of
little things.
The design, you ever just want to like meet one of, you don't want to meet like, I can't ever remember his name, like the Iwata or whatever his name is, like the designer of Breath of the Wild. You want to be like, who placed this? I found, just like the other day, I was testing on my arm, seeing what I could do. There's a bigger than normal pine tree. On a, like, not even bigger, slightly taller than normal pine tree on a hill in the Great Plateau. I was like, I'm going to climb that tree and see what's at the top. I found a Korok. I just want to meet the man who placed that, or woman who placed that Korok there and be like, hey, I found your Korok. Like, it's just so, like, it's so charming.
Breath of the Wild is, there's a circle of lily pads there. What happens if I jump off this cliff and land in that circle? Yep, it's a Korok.
It's like NetHack, but not hard, and like the discovery is great, and it's just lovely. It's beautiful, very fun. But yeah, just those magical moments of Super Mario World and Minecraft and Breath of the Wild, and I hope Breath of the Wild becomes one of the worst games ever. But it becomes like the new standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just yeah.
And Breath of the Wild 2's announcement's coming soon.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's the 35 years of Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And they did a ton for 35 years of Mario. So
Yeah,
it's
but
circulating.
never know.
Yeah.
They don't seem to care that much. But yeah,
We'll leave it there.
yeah. This.
Bye.